Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 12th Selectmen's Meeting. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a quick announcement. Longtime selectman in Oxford, John Sadd, passed away over the weekend. So if we could have a quick moment of silence for Mr. Sadd, who was a very long time selectman in Oxford. Thank you. First item is the June 14th, 2021 minutes that were previously sent to the board. Any questions, changes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of June 14th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Courtney, would you poll the board, please?
Selectman Claiborne?
Yes.
Selectman Contos?
Yes.
Selectman DeBoer?
Yes.
Selectman Dolan?
Yes.
Chairman Veger?
Yes. And this evening, we have several officers with us that we would like to present proclamations to. Chief, I don't know if you want to come on up here and you can help us present, or chiefs? So I don't know if you want to mention a few words? Right.
Sure.
Thank you.
So the night of the fire, when I arrived on scene, there were already officers on scene. There was a woman on the porch roof, and the police officers were trying to keep her calm to get her off the roof. So there was no ladder there. So the neighbors were scrounging around looking for a ladder. They finally found a ladder, and when they did, they brought the ladder over, and Sergeant Lara Shell was one of the first ones to climb up there and keep the woman calm, convince her to get onto the ladder and get her off the roof safely. So I'm sure you've all seen the pictures of the fire that was going on and the smoke and everything else going on. So the police officers do an incredible job. When they first get there, their first instincts are life safety, and they take the job very seriously. And we have a very good working relationship with our police department as with our EMS department. And my job is to make sure everybody goes home safely every day. So working together as a team, it makes our job a little bit easier. And when we arrive on scene, knowing that certain things are in place, already started, helps the progress of the job get done easily and make sure everybody's home safe. And that's our end goal, is that everybody go home safe at the end of the night. So these officers really went above and beyond to help her off the roof, and she had a handicap as well that we didn't know about until afterwards. But just wanted to commend them for the job they did, and obviously, they put their life on the line daily, and they're not recognized enough, I think, as is most of our people that do it on a daily basis. But they just need to know that we appreciate what they're doing for them.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Shaw, would you? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Hickey. I just would echo what Chief Hickey says. I mean, having been here 25 years, we have a fantastic working relationship with the Webster Fire Department and Webster EMS. And, I think having seen the fire department grow from where it was when I first got here, from an all-call, all-volunteer fire department to where it is today, and being able to work with them in the capacity that we have as police, and to learn from them and to learn the things that we do and how to get people safely out of buildings. And when it's not safe to do so, until, make sure that we're safe. It's just a credit to the relationship that we have and to the leadership of the fire department. And I look forward to that continuing throughout my tenure and the rest of Chief Hickey's tenure. And I thank the board for recognizing the officers for those actions that day. We've done this type of activity. This is really nothing new over the course of our careers. Being the first ones there, but this particular incident, I think, is above and beyond the scope of what a lot of police departments would do. I've said this for the years that I've come in front of the board, that I've had a lot of exposure to a lot of different police departments, a lot of different municipalities throughout the state and throughout the New England region, and the relationship that we have with our fire department and our EMS is really unique. A lot of places you don't see this. They're competitive for funding, they're competitive in a host of other things, and you don't see that teamwork that we have here. And I'm really, really happy, and I feel very fortunate to be a part of it. And, you know, I just say thank you very much for recognizing our officers. Going up on the roof like that is something that, you know, hopefully we never see again. I'm sure the chief doesn't want to see us doing that anymore. But, you know, again, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Shaw, and Chief Hickey as well. Yeah, I think you've both used the words above and beyond, and that's certainly true. It's an honor for us to present these citations, you know, to the officers who were involved. You know, you men and women on the police force, on the fire department, are really our heroes. So, you know, I think from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for what you do day in and day out, and especially when it comes to a situation like this. I got to witness my uncle's house burn in October of last year, and I don't think there's anything more traumatic than someone witnessing a house burn and just seeing the flames and the heat and knowing that lives are in danger. So thank you again for everything you do. And what we'll do is we're going to read one of the citations, and they all pretty much say the same, but again, they're our own words of thanks from the town and from the selectmen. So if we could have Sergeant LaRochelle and Officers Ochecki, Rockwood, and Brooks, wouldn't mind coming up. I'm going to stand for this too as well. So in recognition of outstanding service honoring our town of Webster police officers and sergeant, tonight we, the Webster Board of Selectmen, join with Chief of Police Michael Shaw, Fire Chief Brian Hickey, along with grateful members of our community, to recognize all of you for the swift response and exemplary demonstration of leadership on the evening of May 19th, 2021. You were all called to the scene of a raging three-alarm fire at 146 High Street, remaining calm while quickly assessing the escalating situation. You were able to immediately take control and see that a woman was stranded in distress on the roof of the burning house. All of you immediately jumped into action, and with the help of each other, were able to save and rescue the woman from the roof, saving her life. As individuals and as police officers, you do nothing short of the remarkable. We're fortunate as a community to have you looking out for us and our loved ones. To have the intellect, the composure, the compassion, and the leadership skills to enter into such a stressful situation and manage it so effectively that the ultimate outcome is the preservation of human life is something far from beyond your performing your duties. You have forever changed the lives of several people who will never forget you or your bravery. Tonight, we salute each of you and thank you. You are truly our heroes. The town of Webster is honored to have you as our brave officers in blue. We thank you for your outstanding service and your commitment to our citizens. So thank you all. Sorry, Officer Brooks. Thank you. Officer Check.
Thank you for being a Webster.
That leaves Officer Rockwood. Last but not least. Congratulations, thank you.
Congratulations, thank you so much.
Congratulations, thank you for all you do.
Congratulations, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you for all you do for us.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all very much. And be safe out there. Next up on our agenda is Chief Shaw with his biannual Webster Police update.
Carol tells me I have to be quick, so. So this is my annual 6-month report of what we've been doing, what we've been up to the last since January 1st. And so things we'll talk about: personnel, some of the noteworthy activity that's gone on in the last 6 months, community events, although it's been our winter, it's our slow period, but we did do some things. Year-to-date statistics, and we'll compare those to last year. And also did some crime statistics that I can talk about. It's a new category that I haven't discussed in the past, but I came across it when I was playing with the IMC, with our database. So personnel, we had some changes here. We had some good things happen. On January 12th, we hired Officer Nicholas Caruso. He's a lateral transfer from the Framingham Police Department. It seems to be a hotbed of activity. There's a tunnel from Framingham to Webster. He's our third full-time officer that we've gotten from Framingham. I believe he's got 6 years of experience. He's got a lot of good certifications, field training, background. He's completed his FTO. He's been a great asset. Lives over in Dudley. Bachelor's degree, so he's hit the ground running. Also has a little bit of a musical background, so we're going to use him. We're looking to do maybe a concert with some of the guys from the station that have some musical talent, so we're trying to put a band together. I told him, don't worry, I won't sing.
As long as that tunnel only goes one way, Chief.
That's right, that's right. We did lose Officer Robert Eala. He transferred to the Millbury Police Department back in April. So we've actually been in the process of putting out some feelers for lateral transfers. We're actually going to have an interview, I think, next Monday we have 3 candidates that have gone through background, one from Ware, one from UMass Hospital, and one from Littleton Police Department, all full-time academy trained, all very viable candidates, so it's actually going to be a very difficult choice. So we actually have some really tough decisions to make, and a lot of it's going to come down to the interview. But again, we've had a lot of people had some interest that wanted to come to work here, so we're fortunate. So we will be able to fill that position very shortly. Once they come here, they'll be going through we'll set it up for a 12-week FTO, but given the fact that they have full-time experience, depending on how quickly they become accustomed to the way we do things in our computer system and our policies and procedures, a lot of times that gets shortened down, so they're able to hit the ground running a lot faster than somebody that's been through an academy and has no police experience. Speaking of academies, on April 26th, David Brooks, Robert Brooks, no relation, and Joel Fitzpatrick started the recruit officer training course in the Boylston Police Academy. They're expected to graduate. Right now it's October 8th. They don't have a set date yet because they did pad some extra days in there because of the pandemic. Well, what we were seeing in some of the academies was it would start the virus would go through the academy, and a couple of the student officers would get it, so they would shut the academy down for 14 days rather, to try to minimize that. So we don't have a hard and fast date when they're going to graduate, but right now it's slated for October 8th. These 3 are the result of our first, if you remember in the last report, we gave our first non-civil service examination, entry-level examination test. So we had 73 people take the exam, 71 passed, and moved on to the next level, the next phase, which was the physical fitness standards examination. Our physical fitness standards are the same standards that are used to go into the full-time academy. So these 3 had to take that test again. There's a series of, they have to meet a certain criteria on a 1.5 mile run, push-ups, sit-ups, and a 300-meter sprint. So out of the physical fitness test that we gave, we had 41 people show up to take the physical fitness test. We had 11 pass. And from there, we whittled it down. We had 6 interviews, and these 3 were the top candidates. Again, we had 6 great candidates, but we had some really good discussion that day of the interviews. These were the 3 that were offered the position. Again, all local kids. David Brooks is actually the son of Sergeant Joseph Brooks. Robert Brooks was a correctional officer at the Worcester County Sheriff's Office, and grew up in Dudley, currently living in Worcester. And Joel Fitzpatrick is finishing up his college, actually just finished up his 4-year degree, and is an Oxford resident. So they're all local kids. So we're looking forward, and they're doing very well up at the academy. So I've heard some great things about them.
Is anyone else saying Brooks that you're interviewing?
I hope not. May 16th, we had Officer Robert LaRochelle promoted to the rank of sergeant. Very excited, very well deserved. That was done we thought we were going to lose Detective Sergeant Chris Traynor to the Massachusetts State Police. He was in the process, which would have been for us, it would have been a very devastating loss. He's got a wealth of information, a wealth of background and experience, and he's going to be one of the people that we look to for the future of the department. So, unfortunately for him, but fortunately for us, things didn't work out, and nothing that he did wrong or anything like that. Just the process didn't play itself out because there were so many different factors in there. He ended up staying here, so we were fortunate. So he's going to stay in his role as a detective sergeant. We did give his harbor master duties to Officer Patrick Traynor, who is his brother. So he's got a wealth of knowledge about the lake, and he's been taking on that role and doing a great job of it. Some of the noteworthy activity that we've had. On January 6th, Officer Ebling had a motor vehicle stop in which he resulted in an arrest, and he seized 60 grams of heroin and alzapram. That is, to my knowledge, in the last 25 years, that's the biggest seizure of heroin on a traffic stop, not as a result of necessarily a drug investigation with the Detective Bureau where they do a search warrant, but on a traffic stop where he got 60 grams of heroin and some alzapram pills. That was that's the most amount that's been confiscated to my knowledge. I think I had the record up until then at 55 grams, so he had to one up me. On January 26th, we had a shooting in the parking lot at the Hartley Street Terrace Apartments. Victim was shot in the foot. The victim and subsequent witnesses were somewhat uncooperative, but we're going to circle back to that in a couple more clicks. Very minor injury to the foot, nothing life-threatening or anything like that. We did recover the firearm on that. On February 17th, Officer Caitlin DeBono conducted a motor vehicle stop, which resulted in the arrest of 3 people for possession of crack cocaine and heroin. I think it was right around 5 grams, but there were 3 people that were very familiar to us that were placed into custody. So, another good car stop. The suspect from the January 26th shooting, Detective Bureau did a great job recovering the firearm. They've got some good evidence that they were able to take off of the scene and from the firearm itself. They have the suspect who has been arrested. He was arrested in Putnam, Connecticut, and is currently awaiting the trial on that. February 24th, Officer Elis stopped a stolen motor vehicle out of the village, which then resulted in a foot chase. It was quite a lengthy foot chase, which we ended up in the swamp down behind Old Worcester Road in February, which was not a great time. I think everybody, myself included, were involved in that. But we ended up apprehending him, and he was taken into custody. Nobody got hurt. March 1st, everybody remembers the kidnapping from the May Street Park. Joshua Basaw was sentenced to 20 years in a federal prison. He's going to serve all 20 years. There's no, it's a mandatory sentence.
Oh, wow.
On March 13th, the officers evacuated the residents from 8 Robertson Street. Sergeant Joseph Reed was on patrol, and he discovered the fire at the same time. I believe somebody else might have called it in. So they ended up getting out the second floor apartment, and then they discovered that there was somebody on the first floor that was sleeping as an elderly woman. So they went in, forced entry into the apartment, and got her out. She had no idea the fire was going on, so they clearly averted the tragedy there. They were later recognized by myself, and the American Legion wanted to give them an award, so they were recognized by the Legion up on School Street, which is very nice. On April 2nd, there was a motorcycle on 395 that was being pursued by the Massachusetts State Police. It ended up getting off into Cudworth Road and crashed. The operator on the motorcycle took off into the woods. There was a lot of activity with canines, and then they called the state police helicopter in. They ended up taking him into custody. We, the Webster Police Office, assisted. I happened to be here, so I was on scene as well. And nobody was hurt, and they took the suspect into custody a short distance from where the crash occurred. On April 22nd, a Female reported that her ex-boyfriend had broken into her houses in the early morning hours, around 5 a.m. He had broken into her house while she was still there, resulted in a search. They identified who the suspect was, and they ended up locating him over here on Poland Street. And there was a brief foot pursuit, and he was taken into custody. He had several outstanding warrants and had been wanted for a while on those warrants. I want to say a couple of years on some of them. He also picked up additional stalking charges and a host of other felony charges, breaking and entering in the daytime, assault and battery, domestic abuse type things. May 5th, we had a passerby called in a breaking and entering into progress on 291 Main Street, right next to the post office. So the officers were there, and he actually jumped, I believe, from one building to the other on the rooftop at one point. But they were able to take him into custody, and again, nobody got hurt. They did a great job. That was on the 3 to 11 shift. And on May 24th, Officer Patrick Traynor was on patrol, started a brief investigation while he was on patrol, which led to a motor vehicle stop and the arrest and seizure of 15.8 grams of heroin, which is what you see there, which is the photograph there. So community events, this is our quiet time of the year. We start to ramp up with COVID kind of winding down, so which was great. Kind of put a little bit of a damper on some of our summer programs, getting them started, but we are doing them nonetheless. So we had our first one on, we did our patch fundraiser. So last November, we did a patch that we sold, a special camouflage Webster Police patch. A lot of people take them as collector's items, and so the money that we raised, we donated to Veterans Inc. as a donation to them. We also did an autism patch drive and memorial patch fundraiser. The autism patch fundraiser raised about $880, and that's going to go to the Autism Resource Center in Worcester. And Memorial Day patches still hasn't wrapped up yet, so we did participate in our Earth Day cleanup on April 24th. We had our third annual duck race, which I wasn't able to be there, but I heard it was quite the river was flowing pretty well. We had our second cruise night, that's a photograph from that, on May 19th. We're actually having our second one of the year on June 21st, weather permitting. Hopefully some of this rain will finally dry out. I feel like I'm living in Seattle at this point. We also partnered up with AAA across the street. We did another blood drive. It was very successful. They did it by appointment, and all their appointments were full. So they look forward to coming back next year. And we also made announcements we brought back last year because of COVID. We couldn't do our Hoops for Hope, which is our basketball program. We started that last week, so we put our announcements out there for that. That's going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the Park Ave Elementary School Gymnasium. We provide food on Saturday night, and then the school has provided meals on Thursdays and Fridays for those kids. So they get fed, they get a meal, and they also get to play some basketball up there. We also have our, I think it's our 11th or 12th annual Junior Police Academy. I lost track. We have 42 kids signed up for it, which is like triple the record. Last year we had 10. Normally we average about 15, so we actually have to do 2 weeks this year. We're running it Monday through Thursday, so it's you'll see a lot of activity the first 2 weeks in August. But it's by far the biggest turnout that we've had. But it's something that a lot of the officers enjoy doing, and we love having it, and the kids seem to really get a good kick out of it. So you'll see some activity around. So these are our statistics for the year to date. There's a lot of clicking here, because I do a lot of flying around.
Thank you.
He's going on minimal rest, so.
I know. So arrests in 2020, we had 667 arrests, and that includes people that are summoned into court, not just hands-on and people in handcuffs. In 2021, that's down a little bit, 626, but that's about 6%. But that could be for a litany of reasons. It's not really a huge number, nothing that, but.
So Chief, sorry, this is first half of 2021.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is from January 1st to June 30th of 2020 versus January 1st to June 30th of 2021. So reports that people, officers pulled for various reasons that didn't necessarily maybe require a criminal complaint. In that same time period in 2020, 606. In 2021, 485, and I thought that was kind of a strange statistic, and then in talking about it, last year, if you remember, there was a tremendous amount of unemployment fraud. We were getting 3-4 calls a day. Those have since slowed way down, so I think that would account for a large amount of that number being down from what it was. in 2020. Citations, 880, down again, 737. We did look into that a little bit, and so we recently switched to an electronic citation in the cruiser. So if somebody gets a citation, whether it be a warning or a civil citation or a criminal citation, that automatically gets uploaded into CJIS and goes off to the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Whereas opposed before, you had to handwrite the ticket out and then you had to come back and enter it into IMC. You're supposed to still, the officers are supposed to still enter the tickets into IMC for the electronic citations, and it looks like that may not be occurring as rapidly as it should, and we think that may be from officers that, some of our lateral transfers that come from other departments that maybe didn't do that practice. So that's something we're gonna freshen up on with everybody and make sure that they're following up and doing that, and it'll be interesting to see if that number kind of levels out. Motor vehicle crashes, we had 140 in 2020, up by 37 to 177 in 2021. Obviously, that first half of 2020, there wasn't a lot of traffic out there because of the pandemic. Everything was shut down. So this is an interesting stat, some statistics that I found. I did talk, in speaking with the SWIC director, Greg Linsky, in about calls, because I was trying to, it's really difficult to measure how many calls we answer for just Webster and Dudley versus Webster and Dudley, because it's a combined dispatch center, so they share the database. So you can't really separate the calls. So calls, but from what we can tell, the calls are about the same as they were last year. So IMC breaks crime comparison down for statistics. They break it down into 4 categories. There's 3 categories in Group A, and that's all NIBRS related, which is the National Institute of National Incident-Based Reporting System. Those are the numbers that get reported to the FBI, and that's how crime rates are determined nationwide. So they break those down. So Group A, crimes against the person, is the first category. So those consist of kidnapping and abduction, forcible rape, forcible sodomy, forcible fondling, aggravated assault, simple assault, intimidation, incest, and statutory rape. So the total crimes that we had against the person in 2020 for the first 6 months was 291. This same period in 2021 was 260, so that's down 11%, which I thought was encouraging. The next group that they classify in the Group A is crimes against property, and that consists of robbery, arson, burglary/breaking and entering, extortion, blackmail, larceny, pickpocket, larceny purse snatching, larceny shoplifting, larceny from the building, larceny from motor vehicles, larceny all other, motor vehicle theft, counterfeit forgery, fraud, false pretenses, fraud using credit or debit card, fraud by impersonation, embezzlement, stolen property, destruction of property, or vandalism. So those are all crimes against property that they measure. Those were, in 2020, 216 were reported. In 2021, down to 191. So that's a reduction of about 12%. The last category in Group A is crimes against society, and those are drug, narcotic violations, pornography, obscene material, prostitution, weapon law violations. Total for that was 63 in 2020, and in 2021 it was 48. So that's down 48%.
24%.
Or down 24. Did I say down 48%? Down 24%.
That would be really good.
Next year we know, 48.
Next year. So the rest of the categories they consider Group B crimes. The difference between Group A crimes and Group B crimes for purposes of NIBR is the amount of information that gets reported along with it. Group A, there's a lot more, to put it simply, there's a lot more information that gets reported with the Group A crimes. They want a victim, amount, the type of property. A lot more characteristics get put into that database versus Group B is they just want to know about the crime, which it's the way they upload it into the database. The officers import the information, and then from our IMC database, it gets put into the NIBRS database, and the FBI then generates their report from that. So Group B crimes is everything else that they report on, such as disorderly conduct, driving under the influence, drunkenness, family nonviolent offenses, liquor law violations, runaways under 18, trespassing, and the catch-all of all other offenses. So everything else falls into here. So Group B crimes, 267 in 2020, and 210 in 2021, which is also a decrease of 21%. So I felt like that was somewhat encouraging, cautiously optimistic, so I thought maybe that could possibly explain maybe the reduction in the arrests. Not that, arrests are everything and data isn't everything, because I mean, I still see, the calls are still the same, the call volume is still the same. I would say it's probably going to be more. That seems to steadily increase every year. But I thought these statistics were pretty, I'm cautiously optimistic that we're headed in the right direction, and I hope that when I come back in January next year, it's still in the red. I can tell you that we just got last week, the new police boat is being put together, so we're hopeful that that is going to be on the water hopefully this week, if not next week at the latest, and then we'll take the other boat out and auction it off to offset the costs, and the rest of that will be paid for out of our drug account that we have. I know during the fireworks, we had probably one of the most, I'll say, uneventful fireworks from my standpoint. Everything was very well. A couple of kids got separated from their parents, but it was very, very brief and very good. The crowd was actually very well behaved. Traffic going out was nice. The boat, the water, I didn't hear any incidents. I saw a few people. I know that the town put out the request on about the no wakes and no water sports, and in speaking with the environmental police, there's nothing we can really enforce on that as far as monetary fines or anything like that. My thought is, having gone through this, maybe in October we could draft a bylaw that in the event that this situation arises again, that we can look into maybe having some type of fine, so we can go out there and find people that are causing wakes and towing that don't want to comply with the recommendation. And that's...
Yeah, I think with regards to the wake, I know I wanted to say thank you to everyone who at least saw the notices. I think the town tried its best to send as many notices out. Carol even sent out notices to email addresses that she had. And, I think overall, I was really happy to see that the vast majority of the people were very cognizant of the damage that could be caused, and were very good. I was happy to see that.
I went out Monday, and I just said to my wife, I said, you never see this many kayakers and people doing stand-up paddleboard in the middle of, some pond, because everybody was pretty respectful of it.
Right. And I want to thank, Tim Bell, who was acting TA at the time, because he, had contacted me, and with Carol's help and your help and Chief Hickey's help as well to get that notice out. So thank you.
On that line, so I talked to Representative McKenna today, and he was working with DCR to try to get them to help us. Like Chief said, can't really enforce anything, but at least warn people or notify people, so they are trying to help as well.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Or?
We'll open it up to the board.
Sorry.
Bernie. Chief, the stats that you had, the most recent comparisons, those are Webster-based?
Yes.
Not a
Yes.
combination of
Yep,
Webster?
That's Webster. Yeah, that's all Webster.
As I say, from the last time you were here, I remember you had mentioned the department was looking at some software that would allow you to see call trends in certain areas so you could implement patrol strategies. Has that software came about yet, or is it
Oh, we haven't-
still in
we haven't
still
done
the work in
Yeah.
work in
Yeah,
progress?
Yeah, we can do some of that with IMC. We can do some hotspots, if you will, and see where that is. But no, that other software, it hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
And Chief, with these statistics, 2020 was definitely a unique year, but in some ways it was probably down, but in some ways crime was probably up because so many people at home, many more potential domestic issues.
We saw a lot of domestic issues. We saw a lot of substance abuse related issues. And if you remember, like our stats were pretty much the same. The only thing that we really saw a dip in was the motor vehicle citations and the crashes. But our arrests and our offenses were right up there with what they were the year before. So we didn't really see a dip as far as crime, or as far as arrests and summonses and whatnot, so
So Chief, something that's not listed particularly broken down here, like when the officers have to go out trying to find someone who's been summoned or has a warrant, has that slowed down year to year, or is it kind of about the same?
as far as like the officers going to look for people on warrants?
Yes.
No, that stays pretty consistent. I mean, they're very proactive on going to pick people up on outstanding warrants. Actually, Deputy Chief and I were just talking about it. We had a proactive patrol, so we do a series of proactive patrols throughout the year. What that is, we'll put out like an activity, 8 officers will go and they'll do something, like the last one we just did was very traffic-based, so it was like, speeding on Lake Parkway. They had just paved it, so we did, some speeding enforcement there and just some basic other high-traffic areas just to do some traffic enforcement. We've done warrant sweeps in the past, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to bring in 8 officers to go do warrant sweeps because they're very active in going, once they find out someone has a warrant, they go out and pick them up, and they go out and lock them up. So, that stays pretty consistent.
Okay. I mean, I'm a numbers guy. The numbers do speak for themselves. Hopefully, the officers feel the same way, that things are getting better, because the numbers sure
I think overall, having been here for so long and seeing it from the vantage point that I'm at, and I'm not, on the streets and seeing it, but it's definitely, and maybe I'm biased, but I definitely have seen a change over the last 5, 6, 7 years of Webster trending in the right direction, the direction that I think we all wanted it to go. And I'd like to think that, the approach that we've taken the last 5, 6, 7 years has been a part of that.
Could you talk a little bit about the drug situation? In the past few years, we've had a huge opioid issue. That would seem to be getting better, and I know that the town and a number of organizations have helped out. Webster PD has helped out too, to proactively go after that. Has that gotten better?
Yeah, so the opiate stuff in particular seems to go in ebbs and flows, but overall, like we had a couple of overdoses in the last week or so, but we've done since January of this year, our numbers are really good as far as overdoses. We've been very proactive in going after that and trying to reach people and offer them the services that we can. We have our outreach team that go out when there's an overdose. We have 2 social workers that work 4 hours a week each in the station. They come in at night, Mondays and Thursdays. And then we also have the community from the sheriff's office, the center down here. They have a case manager that works out of our building on Wednesdays, and she follows up on things here and does work for the sheriff's office, but she's based out of here to help us. She and I will go out. So we've been doing well, knock on wood. I mean, it was one point, we went like 3 or 4 weeks without the officers responding to an overdose, which before was, we weren't doing that in 2020. So much so, I mean, we've taken a very good approach partnering with the Peer Recovery Center and being able to use that as a hub, and I'm on the board of directors there. Having that asset in town has been helpful as well, and with the partnership with the sheriff's office, it's really been, between having the social workers be able to have that ability to refer people to the services that they need. And it's not just the opiates, it's the substance abuse, it's the mental health, it's the housing, it's people need, there's a lot of people with a lot of needs, and for the officers work in the street, especially if you're working like I did, 3 to 11, at 7:30 at night, everything's closed and you don't know where to go to have that resource that you can refer somebody to the next day, or you can call them and they can make some phone calls from their house, or if they're working, even better, and they can come out and help that person. That's been, a godsend. And we've had some really good success with that.
Any further questions or comments?
We had a couple officers graduate, right, with cyber.
Oh, yeah, we
You're
have,
just showing us pictures.
there's a picture. Yes, so we have, through the Nichols, the Fells Foundation had a scholarship for first responders. So we had 5 officers graduate with a master's degree in counterterrorism from Nichols. Derek Morozic, Tim Whiting, Sergeant Brooks, Caitlin DeBono, and Joe Stevens all graduated with a master's degree. And we have want to say, 2 more enrolled in undergraduate degrees from there in the criminal justice, and then we have a few more in Anna Maria. So we have officers that are getting, furthering their education, trying to better themselves and make themselves better all-around police officers, not just, coming in and doing the 3 to 11, 7 to 3, 11 to 7 stuff. They're taking advantage of the opportunities that are out there for them.
I have to say, that was a very proud moment for me personally, being up on the stage as a trustee to see the 5 of them walk
Yeah, it's great.
and get
It's
their
good
degrees.
stuff.
Yep. Any further questions? No? Yes, I'd just like to, comment, thank you for, all the community efforts that you're making. I know Deputy Chief Wheeler, Lieutenant Wentworth, same thing. I think the 3 of you, the command staff, are showing the police department how to do it. And I think you've got a great department following, great leadership. So
We have a great
thank you
team.
all.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all your support from all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you.
Carol, was that short enough for you? All right, next item on the agenda is request to appoint Dale Veger. How do you pronounce, is it Veger? To the Economic Development Committee. Doug?
So we have 2 vacancies, and we have 2 requests for appointment tonight. Dale, we reached out and we're in contact with. He has a great resume, and I think he will be very anxious and bring some life and enthusiasm to the Economic Development Committee.
Any questions on Dale Veger's appointment? I assume you've talked to the appropriate people, the chair of the...
Oh, it's currently vacant, so we're hoping that maybe Dale can be strong arm into it.
There you go. I know we've seen the information in our package. So, any questions? If not, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Dale Veger to the Economic Development Commission.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Courtney, would you pull the board, please?
Selectman Clayburgh?
Yes.
Selectman Contos?
Yes.
Selectman Ward?
Yes.
Selectman Jolga?
Yes.
Chairman Becker?
Yes. Next item, someone we all know and love, Carol Marchand for the Economic Development Committee. Thank you, Carol, for volunteering for this. I don't know if you did or if town administrator twisted your arm or not.
Volition.
I've actually been a part of the committee for a while, just not an official.
An official member.
We gotta make it official. Put that ring on my finger.
Any
For your
questions?
nose.
Well, maybe you can be the new chair.
Let's start something else.
All right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Carol Marchand to the Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Courtney, would you pull the board, please?
Selectman Clayburgh?
Yes.
Selectman Contos?
Yes.
Selectman Ward?
Yes.
Selectman Jolga?
Yes.
Chairman Becker?
Yes. Next item was the Class 2 license holder discussion. And I know we have the list of the licenses here. What I wasn't sure of is if we had time to talk to the surrounding towns.
I did. So I reached out to see if other people had the same issue and how they were handling it. So Shrewsbury tried to put in a quota limit, and they were sued and lost. So we're not allowed to do that. But I did talk to council, and their recommendation is that we are specific in our policy about what we're looking for in awarding Class 2 licenses. So like number of cars for sale per square feet of the side of the lot, or lots of different things like that. We can add into our policies to make determining whether or not someone should get a license a non emotional decision based on fact of the policy.
So Doug, you'd look to see the ones we have now and create some kind of matrix and then see if there's outliers either
Right.
way.
Like, this guy, he has 30 cars, but his lot's only this big.
Right.
So something like that we can look into. The one thing that came up at our last meeting was that there's 30 of them, or almost 30, and we were wondering how many of them were just for people doing online auctions, and it seems like there's only one of those. All the rest have the ability to sell on the premises.
And so the question really comes down to, do they have sufficient room, and are they at those kind of limits? I don't know if anyone checks the limits that we have in the licenses. Is that,
Ted does go out
Okay.
and
Yeah.
does check.
So, but it might be good. We renew these in the winter, so maybe we can look at them in the summer and see if they are actually
Complying.
at a busy time as well.
Maybe Ted can help us discern how much square footage per car is
Yeah,
reasonable.
Right.
okay, any further discussion on the Class 2 license holders? Next item is request the Board of Selectmen to discharge the affordable housing rental restriction for the property located at 40 Union Street and 33 Mechanic Street. And we do have some information, I think, that Carol had provided. So everything apparently is up to date, the mortgage has been paid off, and
So then we can release the covenants, yeah.
I just had a question. These were low or moderate income housing, and if we discharge them, they could become, and probably will become, regular rentals, or will it stay low or moderate? I'm just trying to ascertain, are we losing low to moderate rentals in
So the
town?
covenant's
Good question.
being released, so there's nothing restricting it from,
Going to market rate.
but we really don't have any claw to.
No, I realize, but I'm just trying to ascertain, is that a loss for Webster, low to moderate income housing?
yeah, I think, Earl, last I had checked through the assessor's office, we were, I think, within the top 3 towns in all of central Massachusetts with the highest amount of number of units available per capita. So it clearly would decrease it for this particular property, but I think, and maybe that's something, Doug, you can maybe update, if you don't mind, for our next meeting, just to, I think that's a very good question that Earl's bringing up. But that way we'll at least have the facts of where we stand. Any other questions on this item? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we discharge the affordable housing rental restriction for the property located at 33 Mechanic Street and 40 Union Street here in Webster, Mass.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? So this is one property, just happens to be co-located. Courtney, would you poll the board, please?
Selectman Clifford?
Yes.
Selectman Contos?
Yes.
Selectman DeBoer?
Yes.
Selectman Childer?
Yes.
Chairman Veger?
Yes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is cable contract update discussion. I know one of the things here was we wanted to see if we can get a volunteer from the Board of Selectmen to sit on this committee. Because I think, we talked at the last meeting about, this is a fairly lengthy process, a number of things that have to be looked into, so.
Quick question, just looking back at do I need to amend my motion for that discharge to also authorize the chairperson of the redevelopment authority, Mark Becker, to execute any and all instruments necessary to carry out the action of the board in regards to discharging the affordable housing rental restriction?
That makes sense.
Yes.
So I'll amend my,
Carol wrote it that way.
yeah, so I'll amend my original motion to also authorize and direct the chairperson of the redevelopment authority, Mark Becker, to execute any and all instruments necessary to carry out the action.
Okay, we have a motion on the amended motion. Courtney, would you re-poll the board, please?
Selectman Clifford?
Yes.
Selectman Contos?
Yes.
Selectman DeBoer?
Yes.
Selectman Childer?
Yes.
Chairman Veger?
Yes. So back to the cable contract update. Of course, we had Ted Avalos come, and we talked about this as noted in our minutes at our previous meeting. Does anyone in particular wish to volunteer?
Yeah, I'd like to volunteer.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that. Anybody else want to volunteer?
We could have 2.
We got 2.
And then, I think Ted kind of said this at the last meeting, but if we just stick with the 5% that we have been getting, this is a 10-minute phone call, but if we're trying to get better service for town residents, this could be a little more drawn out, and that's why we're starting 2.5 years in advance.
Which I think clearly that is the goal, and I think part of the discussion too is, should we be contacting Verizon? I know that I actually committed to making a couple phone calls on that too, to see if and when they had plans to offer service in town. And we talked about also internet, because internet isn't even mentioned
Right.
in the, in the existing contract, and of course, we also have money through the Affordable Care, I'm not quite sure of which act this one was, of that, of that $5 or so million, there's money in there that could be earmarked to helping out with internet service, so.
And at the federal level, there's been even more discussion recently about internet availability in cities and towns that aren't competitively priced, or there's no competition.
Okay. Why don't we take a vote, if we could? Could I have a motion to appoint Tom as the representative from the Board of Selectmen?
I'll make a motion to appoint Tom Claybart as the Selectmen's representative to the Cable Advisory Committee.
Second?
Yep. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Courtney, would you poll the board, please?
Selectman Claybart?
Yes.
Selectman Contos?
Yes.
Selectman Goulart?
Yes.
Selectman Joseph?
Yes.
Chairman Veger?
Yes. Thank you, Tom. And Doug, you're up. I know you've just handed out a, you've been away, and thank you for producing all this, unless Courtney did it all.
So a lot of stuff going on now that we're kind of moving out of COVID restrictions. So we are doing the Wednesday night concerts in the park. We have the police cruise night that you talked about. In August, we have a splash and dash. We also have a triathlon in August. I don't expect all of you to join the triathlon, but I do expect you all to join the splash and dash. Chief Hickey and myself will be attempting it.
So who's going to run and who's going to row? Or have you not decided yet?
No, they're not a team.
It's
they're
a-
separate.
Oh, individually? Wow.
I figure I can take Chief Hickey if Chief Shaw was involved. But a couple other things. So the firefighters are putting on a carnival, and that's going to be July 29th through August 1st at the beach. So that's a big event. We're going to have a food truck festival in September. National Night Out is going to be the first Tuesday in August. The Shakespeare in the Park is like mid-August, the 20th. So lots of stuff going on.
We just need good weather.
I think we're done with rain. So,
And Doug, and Carol on the Shakespeare in the Park, so we may need to just get together for a brief meeting for an alcohol, a one-day liquor license for that, so, before our next meeting.
yeah, our next meeting is supposed to be August 9th, I believe.
That's what we have. Yeah.
So we might be okay, but, on to public health and safety. So we've only had 6 cases in total over the last 3 weeks for the coronavirus, so those have been certainly decreasing. Most of those cases were last week. The Delta variant has been found here, so, but we hope the numbers will stay low with so many people having been vaccinated, hopefully. The firework display, I want to give a big thanks to Carol. She's made the rain stop for the fireworks. But this is actually a big team event because you got the fire department, you got the highway department down there the entire day setting things up, and you got the police department all night. So, and Chief Shaw mentioned it earlier, but everything went very smoothly, no major incidents. Very successful overall, and I hear the show was good as well.
Yeah, I've only read great things, that, best show in years kind of thing, so thanks, Carol, and everybody you worked with on that.
Yeah, I wonder if the vendor had extra fireworks. Like, I might as well burn them.
They shot a few off about 10 or 15 minutes after it ended. Must have been the ones that didn't shoot during the show.
Last Saturday, we also had a touch a truck day, so they had 250 kids here at town.
Oh, wow.
Touching trucks and blowing horns and causing migraines for all involved.
All the folks
There
in
was
our
a
senior
lot of
housing.
complaint, but, it's only one morning a year. So we did receive a grant for about $170,000 from Green Communities, so I listed out what that's used for, the lighting and weatherization that will happen through some town buildings. With Green Communities, we probably received, I don't know, almost $1 million, probably $800,000 over the last 3-4 years for Green Communities. Also, when I got in today, I had a voicemail from a lady saying, from the Shared Streets program, that said, we've awarded you the grant, I'm trying to call you to tell you about it, but she didn't answer the phone when I called her back today. But I applied for $186,000 to do the rest of the sidewalks on East Main, so I'm hoping that that's what she was calling for. Fingers crossed, and hopefully we'll hear back tomorrow. The other finance item, we've been working with the marijuana delivery business, or a potential one. At town meeting, we approved a delivery-only license, so this would be someone that is well-positioned to do that and wants to come before the board and meet and go through the process. So it will probably be coming before the board in August. Last time we talked about outdoor dining, and then the legislature, I think it was the very next day, decided to extend it. So that's all taken care of. We had a couple of grant programs that we offer to local entrepreneurs. So we've been closing those out at the end of the fiscal year. We did have our Economic Development Committee today, but we couldn't hold the meeting officially because we didn't have enough members, and now Carol has solved that problem. On the infrastructure, Lake Parkway, Claybrook Ave, still just a few minor items like finishing up aprons, and we have luckily had a lot of rain to test it. One little issue that they cleared out some tree branches and took care of. Here on South and East Main, they wanted to pave last week, but obviously just too much rain. So they did mill today, and the end of the week looks a little drier, so we hope that that can happen.
Doug, is there still more work to be done by National Grid in town besides East Main and North Main? I see some side streets with yellow arrows and markings.
So right now they're doing Granite and Lake, and those are their main priorities right now.
Yeah.
But after that, I expect them to go back to the remainder of East Main, and then keep going down East Main, and then doing the offshoots from East Main as well. So basically what they did here, they'll do there probably next year. And I think I mentioned this before, but we had a coordination meeting with water, sewer, and highway, and the utility. So we should be all set where every road gets really beat up, and then we repave it only once. So Lake Street will be our first test. So they'll have, right now it's the gas, then it'll have water, and then we'll repave it. The roof, we talked about that. We're still pricing out the additional repairs, so but that will be going forward. We're supposed to be done, but it'll take a couple more months. Once it's actually finished.
Doug, has the rain identified or come up with any more leaks, or had the membrane already been installed? Because obviously it was a good test if it was installed.
It wasn't. So.
It wasn't, okay.
Hill Street, so I have had continued conversations with Mass DOT. They do have it sort of slated in future years, but they are strongly saying this is a Dudley problem that Dudley needs to fix. They have said that if Dudley applies for their grant programs or whatever, that Mass DOT will partner with them. So I had talked with John about how we can assist. I help you write those grants to get that road open sooner than later.
So a grant, Doug, might get it done quicker than, quote, years?
Yeah, well, it any process, even if we had money today, it would still take years before you design it, construct it.
Is there any hardship arguments we can make? I mean, I'm really concerned about access to the sewer treatment plant.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a hardship for our citizens.
Well, I'm really concerned about winter, and
Yeah.
the trucks that are going to be going down that hill.
Right.
Yeah.
That can be very dangerous.
Yes.
And you could end up with an environmental catastrophe in the French River.
Right, trying to avoid one, but you're costing another one.
Right.
So.
Is that an angle? Is that some way that you could,
No, I said that's, you have to maybe try
Right.
that kind of an angle.
Yeah, and
It's not just a hardship. This is a danger, a potential danger.
if we draft a letter, would you mind as chair also signing that?
No,
I think,
I'd be happy to.
The more weight we can put behind that.
Is there some way they could build a temporary bridge over that? And then work on the bridge underneath it?
So I talked to them about, plates or other options to distribute the weight more. I'm not an engineer, but they said no, that the issue that's there, that does not solve that problem.
And a
So maybe
conduit is not a possible solution
could
for
we-
that. They have to build a bridge?
Well, yeah, right, could they just do a culvert under there?
Yeah.
And have,
Yeah,
and then just pave the road normal?
right.
I think the design option, that would be the most likely option.
Sorry, I just realized they didn't have a speaker. Andrew, you going to ask a question?
Yeah, as I say, would it be possible maybe to reach out to the Army Corps of Engineers to see if there's something? I know like when the military goes overseas, they have the temporary bridges that they can put into place for transporting heavy machinery over rivers and whatnot. I don't know if it would be possible to get something temporarily installed that would allow
Yeah,
traffic
that's what I was
to be
talking about,
covered.
'cause I've seen temporary bridges built.
Yeah.
And this could be very dangerous.
Right, especially with the steep angle, like
Yeah.
Randy said, in the winter, you have a truck and that's an icy hill.
That needs to be pointed out.
That's,
So I think if we could, maybe what we'll do is just take a quick vote to authorize me to sign on behalf of the board to find a way to step up getting this taken care of, whatever way we can. Doug will work with me to write up a note. And I also asked John Ruda and Dudley to ask the Board of Selectmen there to write a similar note, but expressing the dangers that we're going to be facing.
so I'll make a motion to authorize Chairman Becker to sign a letter on behalf of the Webster Board of Selectmen pertaining to the urgency of having the Hill Street Bridge repaired and reopened.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Courtney, would you pull the board, please?
Selectman Blair?
Yes.
Selectman Santos?
yes,
Selectman DeBoer?
Yes,
Selectman Shoulders?
Yes.
Chairman Becker?
Yes, and Doug, if you could too, just if you can get some kind of explanation for us to see exactly what is wrong with that bridge.
Yeah.
All we've heard is they've closed it, so I haven't seen anything in writing that says what exactly is wrong with it. I'm sure there's a report somewhere.
and through the chair, can we ask Rep. McKenna and Senator
we-
Fatman to send a letter as well? Is there anything that they can do to help
Yeah.
influence this?
I think one of the strongest advocates on our behalf will be the new marijuana dispensary that's opening up right around the corner. So they've also been pushing quite hard to get something opened.
Right, I think Representative Durant as well.
Yeah.
did we find out what the condition of the other bridge?
Yeah, so off Perryville Road,
No, the first bridge, right?
Oh,
The-
okay.
So,
closest to the railroad
right,
tracks.
so that one is fine, but when I talked to the Mass DOT, he's like, well, if you're doing all that work and closing it for 2 years, let's
Do it all
expand
at
that.
once, so
Yeah.
that makes
Sort of makes
sense.
sense. I mean,
Yeah,
Right, so we'll include that in
yeah.
the letter.
With our water main improvements, that work's been going on. This came from the report last week, but will be doing Whitcomb and Clark doing all the valves and tees this week. Next, we have hired Tom Cutler as our water and sewer superintendent. So he is currently a superintendent in the town of Norwich, Connecticut. He'll start July 26th. We're very excited. He brings a lot of experience and a lot of good management skill. He'll be really good for us. We talked.
Sorry, Doug, you said he works out of Norwich. Is he more, he's local, though?
Yeah, he lives in Thompson.
Okay, which is great.
Yep. Last meeting, we talked about the regional public health grant to cover 2 employees to do public health. So that is we're actively recruiting, trying to find people to fill those positions. But unfortunately, Jen Sullivan, our health director, has accepted a job, yes, in Westboro. And it's hard to compete with Westboro salaries, so.
Is there a time frame for Jen?
August 9th.
I mean, we certainly want to thank her for, she's done yeoman's work, especially through COVID. So it's a loss, big loss for the town.
Yeah, I guess the one good thing is we now have 3 people to help offset her leaving. And we talked about this earlier, but the lake level being so high, the gates are open to the max amount possible without causing damage downstream. And it's only about an inch a day that the gates being open can lower the lake. So, if the lake's up 12 inches, it will take a little while for it to get down.
I did look at some pictures from September of last year to today, and it's 2 feet. The differential between September 10
Yeah.
months ago and now is 2 feet.
Yeah, it was just really low last, at the end of the season.
So I'm not sure, Doug, if we can, and with the help of Carol, again, just maybe put a flyer out to people who are launching boats as they're coming through, and they're checking the stickers to, ask them. It's hard to, do that if you're going out for the weekend and you're going to be tubing and water skiing. Tim, did you have a quick?
Well, I was going to follow up.
Yeah, why don't you come on up here just so we can hear you? And again, as we said earlier, thank you, Tim, for bringing this topic up.
So one of the things I wanted to mention, Chief Shaw kind of talked about it a little bit. I think Doug said, or someone said it earlier. You mentioned DCR, but is there anything that we can do? It probably won't work for this year, but possibly in future years. Can we get some legislation that would say if the lake height is at certain, that at the state level, it would be, the lake would become a no-wake zone, so that we could actually have enforcement if need be? That's something I thought, maybe we could try to work on or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we may want to start with the bylaw that Chief Shaw mentioned, but, again, do we have, if someone, says, I don't believe you have the authority, and you issue a ticket on it, and they say, I'm not going to pay, the state may have control over that. But if we did it in coordination with the state.
Right, I think what we would need to do is the enforcement of the existing regulations on the lake are through the state codified mass regulations, and it states in the CMR that it gives the Webster Police Department the authority to enforce those CMRs. So we would actually have to go to town meeting to have the citizens authorize us to petition the state to add a new CMR for the effect that we'd want the bylaw to read.
So that's something that I
We'd have
think we'd
to
want to
work
think
with
of for the October meeting.
Right, and work with Rep. McKenna and
Yep.
Senator Fatman to get the state to implement those. And I think,
I've looked at other Facebook pages, and it doesn't seem as though Lake Quincy Association, for instance, is able to do anything.
right,
Even though they have a special legislation to allow the Quincy Lake Association to make rules for that body of water. We don't have that. But they haven't done anything yet.
Aside from, though, the enforcement, I know we did we attempted through Facebook, through the emails to communicate with people. Are there any options for us to put up signs that can be changed based on the conditions out on the lake, so that if people get out there and they didn't get the email, they didn't see the Facebook post, that there's a way to communicate that on the lake directly. I don't know if
Perhaps
that's
a
feasible.
flag system at the launch areas or something?
Something, well, and I don't know, but something that's even more prominent,
Yeah.
you know.
So easily, we could put something at the Memorial Beach, and we could even put something at the state boat launch.
Right, but what you're advocating is the lake residents might not know either, and I'm sure
Well, that's the other
some
thing,
of
right?
them didn't know.
Right. So I don't know if any of
At the
the
Narrows
key
or something,
narrows or
in
something
addition.
that we could do something there.
Is it possible to do something by telephone where you?
Yeah, that's
provide
easy.
a warning just for
Reverse
lake
911.
residents?
Oh, yeah, we could, tomorrow we could do the 911, and then to keep it fresh, 2 days later, we can repost it on Facebook and send it out via the social media and our website, just kind of alternate it until the level drops at the lake a little.
Yeah, and we do have the LED signs, the one
Yeah,
in
at the
particular
lake.
by the fire station,
Yeah.
and you could put up a big one, but it's not going to capture the bulk of the traffic.
Yeah, well, Chief Shaw and I were talking earlier today, it's like, he's like, a lot of the people that were out there making waves were pontoon boats. He's like, people aren't coming from outside with pontoon boats, it's the people living on the lake that are causing some of those, most of those.
I will say, I think people took it very seriously. The vast majority of the people were very considerate, because it isn't, there's this discussion on Facebook, it's docks. It's not docks. I'm seeing a couple of feet of beach in front of some people's homes that don't have walls getting eaten up. And we're talking about, shoreline getting eaten up when you have bushes and trees. There are trees now, I was one of the kayakers over the weekend, that are a foot in the water.
Right.
So those shorelines are getting ripped up.
And one of my concerns was anything that has a steep slope, if that shoreline is getting eaten out, you have the potential for, injury or something if someone's standing on a embankment and some of that embankment gives way. So,
Yeah, we could also talk to the environmental police, because I believe they have the authority to also enact CMRs.
That would be good, because it'd be worthwhile having something done quickly.
That's-
Yeah, that would be, right, because obviously us going to town meeting process, well, this problem will be long gone by then. And-
Well, and we did receive over an inch of rain today, so it's not going down an inch today.
And there's more rain forecast for the weekend, so it's not ending.
Well, the only good thing about rain on the weekend is it'll keep the boats off the lake. That's the only good thing.
True.
All right, anything else on the high lake level?
No. And then just as you know, public meetings can still be done on Zoom, although we had no one participate today.
Okay, any further questions for Doug with regards to his report?
Under the road paving, I know the town usually has an outside agency come in and rank all of the streets in town. Is it possible for the board to get a copy of the updated report for street ranking to see what's on the agenda? I know I get residents that ask about the condition of their
What's their next
streets.
street? Yes, I can definitely provide that to you. Also, I got quite a few complaints about private roads with all this rain turning into essentially streams. So we have to kind of remind people that that's actually yours, not mine.
Well, I think, and that's true, we've given, through the bylaws, and the policies, we've given them the opportunity to fix their roads if they can gather the appropriate approvals, percentage approvals. Any further questions for Doug? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the town administrator's report.
Motion to accept the town administrator's report.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Courtney, would you poll the board, please?
Selectman Condos?
Yes.
Selectman Blumer?
Yes.
Selectman DeBoer?
Yes.
Selectman Golden?
Yes.
Chairman Beck?
Yes. And last item is our next meeting date, August 9th. Is everybody okay with that date? That
Yes.
is
Yes.
4 weeks from today. And does that work for our Shakespeare in the Park
don't need all that much time to go pick up a bottle of wine.
And are we looking
But,
to hold it
yeah.
in the town hall auditorium? Since the agenda says it, we're holding it in the auditorium as opposed to the Selectmen's
Is
Meeting
that just a
room?
mistake, or is that?
Okay.
Yes, so, thank you for pointing that out. So it would be here, when the minutes will reflect that. Okay. Any further business? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. Courtney, would you poll the board, please?
Selectman Claiborne?
Yes.
Selectman Contos?
Yes.
Selectman Ford?
Yes?
Selectman Zoldan?
Yes.
Chairman Becker?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.